Psychedelics are illegal not because a loving government is concerned that you may jump out of a third-story window. Psychedelics are illegal because they dissolve opinion structures and culturally laid down models of behavior and information processing. They open you up to the possibility that everything we know is wrong.
We don't need new laws that control our consciousness and rigidly place it in a prison.
Cognitive liberty. The fact that as adults, if we're not hurting anybody else, we should have the right to explore the contours of our own consciousness without any mediation or legislation on the part of somebody else.
Reject authority. Authority is a lie.
Or is it perception?
Information is power, but we have to seize the opportunity.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of Micadelic. I'm your host, Mike Brancatelli. Welcome. Today's episode is a solo cast. It's just going to be me, and this is actually going to be an episode. I'm going to play some audio from a mushroom trip that I went on. A little shroom vacation, if you will. I guess I've talked about this on the show before. How I do psychedelics, when I do them, why I do them, and that sort of thing. But pretty much, I usually try and do what Terence McKenna would describe as a heroic dose every 6 months to a year, and that's usually anywhere in the five dried grams of psilocybin mushrooms. It's either it's 5 or 6, maybe 7 sometimes. I guess it kind of depends on what kind of mushrooms they are, and that sort of thing. This time I did 6, and wow, I mean, it's just like, you know, these things are just so incredibly amazing. It's really, you never know what you're going to expect each time. You know, so I put this one off actually for a long time. It's been I think it's been over 8 months since the last time I did something like this. But there's a little bit of fear that comes along with it, and there's a little bit of hesitation that comes along with it. You know, like I've been kind of putting it off because it's, you know, it's a serious thing to do. I mean, it's no joke. I mean, you know, you don't you have to have respect for these substances. You can't treat them with disrespect. I've definitely done that in the past and it hasn't worked out well. So, you know, with that being said, it's like, you know, look, if you're going to be engaging in anything like this, be responsible. You know, do research, ask questions, and of course, make sure you're in a nice set and setting. You know, you're in a good mindset, and you're in a good setting, you're in a good environment where you have, you know, good music or good friends or, you know, good visuals, you know, tapestries or whatever, and candles or incense, whatever you want, you know, comfortable pillows, a bed, or maybe you're outside camping and you're near a lake or something like that. Whatever you're doing, just make sure that you're doing it in a safe and responsible way, because that way you're going to have the best experience you could possibly have. And you always want to make sure that you have a good mindset going in. And that's really important too. So, you know, sometimes it's just not the right time to take them, so you don't take them. You know, you wait until it really feels right, you know. And so that's what I did. I waited until it felt right. And so basically what I want to do now is I'm going to play for you what I'm calling, you know, sometimes I call things mind jams. For whatever reason, I decided to call this one mind surfing. And I don't know. I think I might have a little idea here. You guys let me know what you think. But I'm thinking of doing something because I guess I've gotten to the point where, I don't know, I guess I'm like a professional. I don't know if you guys know who Aubrey Marcus is, but he said this thing where he was like, Yeah, like we gotta find like the LeBron James of tripping or something like that. Like I'm no LeBron James, but I might be like Kyrie Irving. Like I think I'm up there, man. Like I don't know. I've had several experiences where they've been really powerful experiences, and I've been able to kind of like, sometimes you're incapacitated, sometimes you can't talk, sometimes you're just overwhelmed by all the beauty and the magic and everything. But this time, and this happened other times too, but this time was really significant because it was the first time that I really felt like empowered. Like the psilocybin, like fully, like I was like fully embodied, and it was like a dance. It was like I guess like the way that I'm also thinking about it is the way that Venom in the comic Spider-Man, it's that symbiote suit that like attaches to him, and they together become this thing called Venom, which is Spider-Man's nemesis. But that's kind of what it was like for me. Like I felt like I was working together with the mushrooms to dance like a mind dance, like a mind surfing through the cosmos. And I had a few questions. Like I think it's always good to have an intention too when going in to these experiences, doing it in a proper way. I mean, you could do them in any way you want, but I mean, if you're diving in the way that I'm kind of diving in, where I'm kind of exploring, I'm trying to learn something, I'm trying to heal something, some part of me, gain some kind of understanding, I had an intention, and one of those intentions was to try and understand what it is inside of human beings that makes us afraid of these sorts of substances, where to the point where we have to create systems and legislations and rules and laws and these sorts of things. Like what is it exactly that that causes certain kinds of human beings to think that way? So that was one of the intentions that I had going in, and I was communicating, trying to understand this form of intelligence that is the psilocybin mushroom. I've been trying to understand this intelligence because this is an intelligence that has been, on Earth and survived on Earth for thousands of years, maybe even longer, and it's an intelligence that we don't understand. And I think that is where the fear comes from. It comes from, and I talk about this, and I'm gonna play the clips. I'm gonna repeat myself, but I'm just gonna say it now, and then I'll play the clips that I recorded of myself, unedited live clips of me when I was like peak tripping, and you guys can hear kind of what I was saying. I felt compelled to speak. I was by myself, and sometimes when I'm, most of the time when I'm by myself, I don't talk. I just kind of have the experience, and maybe I'll write some things down afterwards. But this time I was standing up, speaking, twirling a golf club, and staring into my computer's hypnotic, psychedelic screensaver. It was pretty cool. But I think ultimately that there's something that frightens us. And that thing that frightens us is, I think there's several things that frighten us. And one of those things that frightens us is the fact that we're all going to die. Which is, I think, an irrational fear, because it's inevitable. I forget whose quote it was, Oscar Wilde maybe, like, don't take life so seriously, nobody gets out alive. Someone will have to correct me on that. I'm not sure if that's Oscar Wilde, but something like that. But there's this level of intelligence that resides within this specific substance in which I've experienced and that I'm talking about, which is psilocybin, the active ingredient in magic mushrooms. And there's a specific intelligence there, and it's not an intelligence in the way in which we would consider intelligence to be. It's not something that you can quantify and measure and put into books and that you can gain an understanding by reading or through intelligent, rational, discourse. It's not that sort of intelligence. And I think that there's a fear there because we're experiencing something that's so beyond our comprehension that it scares us to know that maybe there's something that's as powerful as us, more powerful, whatever. Just something that's beyond our understanding that we can't quantify, that we can't make sense of. Something that unlocks, our deepest unconscious, and maybe we're scared because we have thoughts that we don't like, and those sorts of things or whatever. But the more you experience it, the more you understand that that there's just a lot going on, and there's a lot to be learned, and there's a lot to be gained. And the conspiratorial side of me, and the kind of the side of me that leans more towards the state being kind of more of a nefarious actor than any sort of benevolent actor. I mean, obviously, the state by its very definition is not benevolent. I guess there's people out there that think that it could potentially be used to help people, or that its intended purpose is to try and help people, but oftentimes it just doesn't. It doesn't do that. So it's no wonder why these things are illegal. As I say, as Terence McKenna says in the intro of this show, it's just there's a power here, there's an intelligence here, and there's an experience that you can have that will change you. And it's difficult to put into words. It's very difficult to put into words. And so this isn't something that you can understand necessarily by listening to me, or by listening to, or by reading books, or whatever. I mean, we consider certain people on this planet to be smart. I think that our definitions, our scope of knowledge, the categories in which we put things in are very limited. We're just scratching the surface. We barely have an understanding of what it means to be smart, what different kinds of smartness is, what intelligence is, the different kinds of intelligence. I mean, it's just, there's so much. And, I am a limited being myself. I don't claim to be, some kind of superior smart person, or, some pompous pedantic dickhead that knows what he's talking about, I mean, I even probably just said pompous and pedantic to make you think that I knew a little bit more, to give more credibility to my vocabulary, to make it seem like I'm not, just some fucking dumb shit, talking, getting fucked up on mushrooms and not to say that there's nothing wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, For whatever reason, I am the vessel that is me, and I have the understanding that I have, and I've had the experiences that I had, and I'm attracted to what I'm attracted to, and the limits of my cognitive functioning are there for a reason or whatever, and it's just the words I use are the words I use, and that's it. I'm not a bookish academic type, and so that's it. So I think I think it's all part of the fun that just that there's this kind of randomness to who gets the opportunity to be exposed to certain things, who walks down certain paths, and that sort of stuff. It's kind of like the unexpected hero in Lord of the Rings. Like, who would have thought that like a little hobbit from the Shire, Bilbo Baggins, would be this tremendous, brave, courageous hero? No one would have, but that's the point. That's what makes it interesting and fun. It's very interesting. But not saying that I'm that, because I'm not at all. Just trying to share my experience, and hopefully, if it makes sense and it resonates with you, then you can share it with others, or you can be inspired to go and investigate things for yourself. Because that, at the end of the day, I mean, at the beginning of the day, at the middle of the day, at the end of the day, at all points of the day, that's what everything is about. Reality is an experience machine. I mean, life is an experience machine. It's like, if life was a game, it would be like going to an amusement park, and it would just be like, okay, there's all these experiences you can have. Go and explore and choose your own adventure. And it's just kind of like, it's almost like the ultimate form of a game. Life is the ultimate form of a game. You're a player that gets dropped into a game, and there's no instructions, there's no rules, and you just have to kind of try and have little victories along the way, and choose your own path, and figure things out for yourself, and hopefully try and quote unquote win your game. Yeah. So I want to play these clips from the trip, and I mean, they're not edited. They're I'm probably stammering and stumbling and repeating myself, but I'm on 6 dried grams of psilocybin mushrooms, so take that into account. And listen to them. They're about 30 minutes long, so I'm gonna play them now, and then I'm gonna come back and then we'll talk further into them. All right. Well, this is very interesting because this is a kind of understanding that can only be described by experience. Language can only go so far. And that is why there is a limit. But it's within the confines of those limits that makes everything so fun. It's really, human beings are... Okay, so first of all, this is a note to my future self, obviously, but the idea is to do live mind surfing, live mind jams, live trip sessions and flow state mind jams. So it's like surfing through the web, being like what Aubrey Marcus talks about, like the LeBron James of tripping. It's like, yeah, like how can we tune our minds and the limitations of our human bodies, and it's really the fun of... All right, this is good. This is like Tony Stark or Spider-Man, whatever, experimenting, but there's a limitation to what we can actually describe and speak out into the environment. It's a dance that can only happen through direct experience. And it's really when an individual has the courage to surf the waves and the cosmos of infinity, it's like just opening up to that, and just having that experience and just letting that, whatever that is, just that like infinite cosmic wave just flow through you. But there's something within the minds, there's something that is very interesting within our species that's particular to our species. It's like the hero myth is not just a cute little story that can be, that's it literally is something that infects the entire world. But it's really the ultimate understanding. And the ultimate understanding is to embrace that there's intelligence that exceeds what we can describe. Not just describe, but there's an intelligence that exceeds what we describe as being legitimate forms of intelligence, just because we don't necessarily have the sorts of measurements and things like that yet to really
handle them. But really the understanding comes through direct experience. And it's only through direct experience of each individual that we really come to understand there is no separateness between us. There is really nothing that the thing that we describe as hate, the thing that we describe as fear, the urge to kill, the urge to strike other people down, the urge to dominate and control, that all comes from our inability to understand something that is beyond the capacity for what we deem to be understanding. If that makes sense. There's limitations to what we consider to be the smartest people of our civilization today. There's dogmas, there's limitations to the intellect, because the limitations of the intellect are imposed by those who have a refusal to acknowledge that there are realms of understanding that we can't possibly understand. There's a fear to tune in. There's a fear of this vibrational frequency that we're hitting that makes other people, everything is absurd. But we've sectioned things off and this is the power that comes along with whatever I have in me right now that feels compelled to do the thing that I feel compelled to do. It's like whatever that is, it just is. And there's no reason to run away from that or to it's just it just the logos. For whatever reason, there's an intelligence that's beyond our understanding, that's survived. It's an infinite intelligence, and if you really want to boil things down to the simplicity of it, it's like there's a finite. The reason why things are so enjoyable and fun is because we give them meaning. We give them meaning. We that's why we invest in the games. But the games lose fun and they lose meaning when you remove yourself so far from the games that you're questioning the validity of even playing. I mean, nobody wants to be around a person who is acting that way. And I think that we as individuals have to own up to that. It's not the systems that we create. All of these things are limitations that are imposed, and there's a great power that comes along with this kind of level of understanding, because the understanding is not something that is derived from something that I fully intelligently understand. And that's the thing that's terrifying. The unknown, the mystery, the knowledge that we will never know everything is the thing that terrifies us. And because of that, we feel that we as human beings can enact some sort of control over our environment in order to shape things and mold things into the way that we wish them to be. And so, what Jordan Peterson talks about by speaking truth into being, it's like that is essentially what human beings are afraid of. There aren't some kind of other boogeyman that's out there that's waiting to get us. And I think that sometimes that we have to come to an understanding that can only be had through direct experience. And I think that there's been a questioning in terms of like, why me? Why would the intelligence of the mushrooms, why would the intelligence of the tryptamine space, of the psychedelic realm, why would they choose to communicate their intelligence to somebody who, in this kind of, in this kind of realm of what we deem acceptable thought into existence, but there's a certain kind of dance that you have to accept, and it's really like juggling that uncertainty, juggling that surfing. It's really the only thing that I can think of is like surfing through the cosmos on a Silver Surfer, Thanos. Those are some of the coolest artistic explanations. So it's really, we are housed, and Ernest Becker, the two people that come to mind right now, and obviously I know that these thoughts are going to be, when I listen to them later in the future, I'm going to be like, what the hell, this guy's tripping, blah, blah, blah. But there is that's the point. The point is that to embrace a power that's beyond our understanding, and to harness it, and to dance with it, and to create with it, and to love with it. And the refusal to accept that there's an intelligence beyond our understanding, that is where the male ego, the big dick swinging, the fear, the domination, the turmoil, that really is what comes, because we can do that. Human beings are capable of that. Of course we are. But there's a great power to this kind of level of understanding, and I think that we all individually have to awaken to this power and then lead by examples in our own lives. Because it is only us living through other lives in which we impose turmoil on ourselves. And there's really, you can either understand that or you don't understand that. And, it's like, at the end of the day, that's where a large level of my frustration, a large level of my teen angst, I guess you would, because there's a collective refusal to understand in our society the things that we don't understand, and our denial, our refusal to accept the things that which are beyond our limitations for rational understanding. In all of our language, in all of our books, in all of our intelligent thoughts, in all of our kinds of artistic forms of expression, there's a trap that comes along with it, and the trap that comes along with it is ownership. The true but it's even wrong for me to say that there's a trap that comes along with it is ownership. That even speaking those words into being is incorrect. Because the only true correct form is just being, is experience, and it's very hard for a rational mind to understand those sorts of things. But that's what makes it so fun. And it's really like, for everything that we oppose and for everything that we say is like, for all the games that we inject, that we for all the games that we choose to play, that we give so much meaning to, there's a certain kind of understanding that happens, And this kind of understanding is something that human beings are afraid of. We're afraid of accepting the fact that there is an understanding that is beyond our understanding. But if we just give in to that and we just learn how to dance with it, we wouldn't try and impose our will. That's really the trap, is that the trap is in thinking that there is an understanding. Linear thought. I mean, in essence, it's essentially what that is. And it's, for whatever reason, embracing, like trying to channel this energy as much as possible. Yeah. And not necessarily railing against it, but tuning it. And trying to lead by example rather than pick apart and lecture. And that's really the hardest understanding, I think, for human beings, because in all of our ways of, we are limited in our speech, in our artistic expression, in everything that we do. We are limited, but we can carry out, for all the things that we are limited to in our existence, we can tune our frequency as much as possible to bring joy and to alleviate pain. And that really is something that we should be striving for. And I think that that's the only thing that can, that can only happen by submitting to things that we just don't understand, things that are beyond comprehension. I mean, we can create these books and we can have these intellectual discussions and we can, dive into these expanding mind jams of thoughts and, the things that I enjoy so much, but there's a limitation to that. And it is our acceptance of those limitations that is why we suffer so much as human beings collectively on this planet. And it's only an understanding that you can have through experience. You can't have this understanding through me telling you right now. I am only a, for lack of a better word, receptor, receiver, transmitter. For whatever reason, that is what I was gifted to do, is to point in the direction of love and creativity and peace and joy and embracing the dance. Because there are those that, and kind of bridging that gap. All right, I think I'm reaching the limit of what we would understand as rational understanding. And I think that that's what scares us. What scares us as human beings is ourselves. I mean, that's the only explanation for what we do to the planet, what we do to ourselves, and there's no reason for that. The reason for it is the refusal to accept the power to which we were randomly given by something that we can never understand, and then engaging in our own individual direct experiences in order to make sense of a world that is beyond something that we could put into words, beyond something that makes sense for mass consumption. Reality is not something that is defined, but we definitely appreciate those people that can tune their vibrational frequencies to a level where we're all like, yeah, dude, like that is exactly what we want to be striving for in life. However, the reality is that as we strive to embrace the realm of uncertainty, as we strive to embrace the realm of power that's beyond our understanding, there's a fear. And that fear is something that we create. We create these limitations. Limitations that are abstractions. They're abstractions because we feel as human beings that we can somehow, and especially as male human beings, because I don't know what it's like to be a female. I don't know what it's like to embody another being, another form of intelligent life on this planet. I think that there's a level of respect that we need to strive towards understanding. And so with that comes like a great responsibility, and that responsibility is in trying to understand another person's point of view, understand another person's perspective, understand another person's subjective view of the world, even if you think that subjective view of the world is incorrect or wrong or criminal or insane or whatever whatever we impose in our finite cages of understanding. There is a level of intelligence that goes beyond that. It's an infinite level of intelligence that surfs in the waves of the cosmos that to an outsider looking in is frightening. Yeah. And I think that the refusal to answer the call, the refusal to accept the responsibility that comes along with being the best kind of version of yourself, whatever, there's no sense to be made of it. There's no sense to be made of certain kinds of individuals popping up and being the kinds of individuals that they are and having the impacts that they are. And it's very interesting. It's a very interesting dance that we have to learn how to accept. And there's a kind of defiance that comes along with it, There's definitely a defiance that comes along with it. I think that there is something that we're afraid to confront ourselves with, and I think that this is a very interesting time to be alive, where human beings are, for the first time ever, spreading throughout the world like the same way that plant intelligence and the intelligence in which that we have psychedelic experiences yeah. All right. This is the period of personal exploration that I'm going to have to, well, you know what's going on. We are afraid of the unknown that doesn't exist yet. We have this praise and admiration and this worship that we look at these other forms of intelligence like ayahuasca or mushrooms or these other sorts of intelligence, which we should treat with such respect and such as these great teachers, but not to be slaves of their worship. And I think that that's the trap. That's really the trap, is to think that you are in a finite way slaves to the worship of a certain kind of way of thinking, a certain kind of modality of understanding. That whatever, for whatever reason we have as capacity for human beings, the ability to make sense of the way that things are in our world, investigate the way that things are in our world, understand each other. But all of these kinds of things, there's a deeper level of understanding that we need to have, and that level of understanding can only happen through time. And that's the beauty of it. And our refusal to accept the beauty is what causes the pain in the world. So, for whatever reason, I'm trying to be a bridge. Yeah, I'm trying to be a bridge for the pain and suffering that is in the world to be understood in a way that plants and a kind of form of intelligence that we can't really seem to understand and therefore are afraid of. But if we only learned how to embrace, if we only learned how to surf, I mean, that's really the only, in all of my limitations of understanding, I think that, and I can only speak as an individual, but hopefully my speech as an individual can resonate with other individuals who maybe have had a similar experience. And I think that's something that obviously language can't contain, and rational thought can't contain, and that's why we're so afraid of it. We're so afraid of it because it's the key to a whole new world of just loving and accepting and joy and fun and embracing the uncertainty, as Master Shaman Hamilton Souther said so eloquently on my show. It's like, okay, so if there's a snake, you move around the snake. And it's I think that our refusal to acknowledge that there's an expanded view of what we deem as consciousness. Yeah. And obviously I can't go on because to an outsider looking in, it's not rational. And the not rational, the trickster mentality, the archetype of the trickster, the archetype of the joker, the archetype of that, it is not relegated to the confines of just these things that we deem as comedy. You know, it's like, okay, this is comedy, this is not, this is serious, this is not. It's like, no, there's a responsibility that comes along with engaging in direct experiences that human beings have engaged with for all of our time of understanding and for evolving as human beings. Yeah. And there's a certain kind of acceptance to that I think is really what frightens us as a species, and that causes us to act out in hostility or aggression to others, because that is something that is directly an experience that we can inflict, and we can say, it doesn't matter what all of your hippy-dippy woo-woo thoughts and opinions are. It doesn't matter what, you know, the clouds and the gods and the Vedas and the Rig Vedas and the Upanishads and the Egypt. It doesn't matter. All of these things don't matter, because I'm just, because there's a will that I'm going to inflict. And that is the fault of humanity. The fault of humanity is the defiance. And then it causes suffering. And then what good is that? No. And I think this is the message that is the message that gets so misinterpreted throughout this whole movement, or whatever you can say. It's like, to be a spiritual person, to be a psychedelic person, you have to love everybody, or that you have to embrace everybody, and that you have to care about. No. The only thing that you have to do is engage in direct experience, and then allow that experience to, so first of all, surrender to that experience, and then allow that experience to inform your life, not to control your life, not to submit to it and worship it at the altar of something that we don't, some kind of distant thing, some abstraction. I mean, that is the prison of man's intellect, is that we can come up with these abstractions and we can think of them in all of our books and all of our little ways of understanding and all these things, but there's a bridge, there's a gap, and the role of the comedian, the role of the trickster, the role of the there's certain kinds of people in our society that are just ready to awaken to a realm of understanding that's beyond something that is currently in existence right now. So what we have to do is we have to tune ourselves into that frequency, and to really ride that wave of uncertainty. We don't know where it's going, and we don't know what's happening, but it's a wave that we're willing to embrace and dance with. And I love that line from Marvel where it's like Thanos, they say, I forget what the line is, but it's like, to do so is to court death. And Thanos turns around and he grins, because that's what it is. But when you, it's our ability to say that we can destroy it, that we can, like, you know, will it into being. And I think that speaking as a man, there's a certain kind of, like, power that comes along with your being. But that power can be channeled into the room, and it's all making sense to me now, because what I experienced in Peru was just like, is a microcosm for what can happen into the world. But it's a dance. It's a dance. And it has to be done in the correct way. And there's no rhyme or reason for why I am the person that I am, to be transmuting the message in the kind of vibrational frequency. It's chaotic. It doesn't make sense, but it just is. And that's our capacity not to understand that being of is, to an outsider seems frightening and terrifying, because we all these limitations that are imposed by what we deem as society, what we call culture, what we call government, what we call all these things, we label all these things. These are all abstractions in order to deal with, to make sense of something. So they're all abstractions to make sense of something that the plant intelligences that have come before us have been able to survive and adapt through. And that is the willingness to relinquish power. And in the willingness to relinquish power, in the willingness to submit to something that you can't fully understand, there's a great deal of power that comes along with that. In that acceptance to submit yourself to the dance, there is a great power to be had. There's a great power to be had in that. And it's not an abstraction. It's not a dream. It's something that we can all, as individuals, bring into existence, into this world right here and now. And we can create as a reality. And for whatever reason, I do not know. And that is like I said, the thing that terrifies us as human beings, and I can only speak from my own individual experience, but hopefully from an individual experience, other people it will resonate with them. That's, in the limitations of the capacities for which I'm able to express myself, comes a beauty and an understanding and a power. And it's like, from that, we can create really dope shit right here, right now, in this existence. And it's like this fucking, like, tubular, rad, Ninja Turtle fucking dude, yo, cowabunga, ride the wave, surf through the cosmos of infinity. But it's only accessible if you're willing, as a man, if you're willing to submit to a power that you don't fully understand. That is the key to everything. And even me saying that that's the key to everything is a trap, because this is where I love this book, Society Against the State. The ultimate trap is thinking that there's a level of understanding of how to be and how to live and how to be a proper individual. Nobody can give that to us. And the rise in popularity of Jordan Peterson, it explains that, because there's a man that can command human language and understand. He's done the human intelligence level of understanding. He's done the work that we all seek, the wisdom but there's the fun and the game of our understanding. Is that we are all, as animals, as plants, as cliche as it is to say, but that is the truth, that we are all individual, and we are all beautiful in our own unique ways, and everything is, we can choose to be like, we can choose to make fun of it, we can choose to do, we all these things are choices. And it's not that, like, these choices are incorrect or wrong. And I think that that's a part of the male version of competition that is so fun and exciting, is to be able to be dominant and to win and to feel superior and to have a sense of victory and pride that comes along with that. But that sense of victory and pride is this very same thing that will kill you. And the refusal to answer the call is what has been killing us for our entire existence. It's the willingness to submit to the random to the randomness and to an intelligence that's far beyond anything that we, not just an intelligence, but it's like what as human beings, we have all of these systems, and there's people that can explain this better than I can. But that's the point. The point is that we all have limitations, and it's through these limitations that we think that we can impose ourselves. That's the trap. The trap is that we are, as Ernest Becker says, we are, these beings that can ponder the infinite. Like, we can. But we're housed in these bodies that are food for worms. But I don't think that there's nothing that's sad about that. And I think that investing in the sadness, and I think investing in the defiance, that's really what it is. It's the defiance that comes along with that. It's investing in ideas. Like, we think that we can make sense of the world. We think that we can impose these things, but there's an intelligence that's far beyond what we can understand, and that is the thing that frightens, I think, most of human beings. Is, it's an abstraction. It's an abstraction of the direct experience in which we encounter from the far reaches of infinity, that we then bring into this realm in order to be sort of like big fishes in a small pond, so to speak.
All right. Well, if you were able to get through that, I appreciate it. Thank you. Once again, that was a live trip session. So thanks for listening, and yeah, just to kind of expand and dive even deeper on these things. I mean, it's like, what are we talking about here? Why is this important? Why are we listening? Well, I think it's because that what I'm talking about on this show here and what I'm concerned about affects everything. It affects every single thing. And I do believe that we can actively make an effort to literally change the world. And this is not some kind of, fluffy, duffy, whatever, hippy-dippy utopia fantasy. It's not about that. But it's about having the opportunity to take the chance, to make the choice, to push and to make an effort to go, to do it, because the juice is worth the squeeze. It's just, it's worth it. It's worth, not just worth it for us in our lifetime, but worth it for, our children's, and I don't have kids, but, potential, the next generation, the generation after that, and after that, and after that. It means something, in order to say, I was alive, and during the time I was alive, these great things happened. So, I just think that there's a lot of suffering that happens in our world today, and all kinds of suffering. And I'm talking from a, white male perspective in a first world country in the United States of America, where pretty much, if you're born here, you're pretty much born privileged, no matter who you are. I mean, you are born in America. We're born in a country where we have so many things and opportunities and all these nice things. And, a lot of people, and it's like that in itself isn't justifiable. Isn't a justifiable reason to say, well, then you don't have a right to complain because you have all these things. Well, you do, because a lot of these things that we have aren't really necessities. They're cheap substitutions for the real thing. They're artificial. They're plastic. They're consolation prizes for being an obedient worker and agreeing to the hierarchy of the state. It's and that is at its core, the element that is distorting, life here on Earth, and that element is within the human mind. It's within the human desire for power and control and domination that creates a ripple effect of suffering that distorts everything in society. And that distortion, people have to then, if they want to have any sort of life whatsoever, have to agree to the terms of the game and play according to the rules. And some people play according to the game rules of the state, and really, they're rewarded, and they're rewarded these kinds of money and private jets, or whatever. But the reward that is forbidden, because it's illegal, is the reward of having a personal, individual, direct experience, engaging your mind and your body and your soul in a moment of an altered state of consciousness. And that that is the most feared thing. That's the most feared thing in existence. And Terence McKenna has this quote where he says, DMT is a reliable method for crossing into a dimension that human beings have debated the existence for 50,000 years. Is there an invisible nearby world inhabited by active intelligence which human beings can communicate? You bet. And if you don't think so, then tell me you don't think so after you've smoked 75 milligrams of DMT. Otherwise, we just don't have anything to talk about. And I love that, because it's all about direct experience. It's not about believing in something. It's not about having faith. It's not about following rules. It's not about following laws. It's about following your own rules, your own laws, your own faith, your own belief, your own life. Because ultimately, this show is yours. You are looking out onto the world from your two eyes. The words that I'm speaking into this microphone are going into your mind, into your brain. It's processing, you're internalizing them and digesting them, and then you're making decisions based upon what you hear, what you see, what you read, what you experience. This is the greatest crime against humanity, is taking away your right to have your own experience, to have your own thoughts, to have your own opinions, to have your own desires. Instead, we live in a world right now that is, mass produced. And, reality is not for mass consumption. Reality is for you. It's about you. It's not about anybody else. And you don't have to believe me. You don't have to say, oh, okay, yeah, but, I have a boss, or I have parents, or, oh, it's against the law, or something like that. This is your life. From what we know, we only live it once. I get a feeling maybe that's not entirely true, but I don't know. And anybody that claims to know, I don't care who they are, Buddhist monk or someone, don't believe them. There's no reason to believe anybody but yourself. I mean, you can listen to people, you can read from people, but always go by your own instinct of what you feel may be right, because you're the ultimate authority. Christopher Hitchens used to always say this thing where he would say, I don't need to be part of a majority. I am a majority. I am a majority of one. It's my opinion. It's what I believe. It's what I'm saying. And I don't give a fuck if you agree with me or not. I'm not moving. And, that corresponds with individual liberty, property rights. My body is my property. My mind is my property. My soul, my spirit, everything that I am is mine. And just because I'm part of something that we call a democracy doesn't mean that I have to do what the majority tells me to do. I'm my own majority. Me, Mike Brancatelli, I have all the cells in my body, the millions of cells and neurons and everything. This is my majority. So I always tell people, the message from me is, do not listen to me. Do not believe me. Don't quote me. Don't believe books. Don't worship authors. Don't worship books. Don't worship spiritual practices like meditation and yoga and teachers or gurus. There's such a need to worship at the feet of somebody that who we think they know. And yeah, they might know. But ultimately, when you worship an idea or a person or a book or a method or a practice, that's a trap, because you're creating a finite thing on an infinite thing. And that infinite thing is an ever-growing, ever-evolving, changing, chaotic, orderly, creative, destructive experience that is called your life. There's a lot of times where I've probably said things that I've, contradicted myself or said whatever, because I'm changing my mind all the time. Because every moment I experience in life is new, where there's new information, where there's new experiences, where there's just novelty everywhere you go. And so I let that inform all of my decisions, And we're too, I think a lot of times in public discourse in mainstream society on news and things like that, we have a tendency to say, well, this person said this, but now they say this. It's like, well, yeah, maybe they changed their mind. Maybe new information has come to light. Maybe they feel a different way. Maybe they had a different experience. Something happened. But because we like to think that we can put ourselves into boxes, that we have everything figured out. We know who we are. We know why we're here. We know, we know what happens after you die or whatever. We like to think that we know, but we don't know. And submitting to the unknown and living in the mystery is what I consider to be the most, I guess maybe intelligent way to live one's life, to just always enter each situation with fresh eyes and a new brain and a new mind, and try and move from there, and just try and negotiate every little thing that comes your way. There's no set way of doing things. The set way of doing things comes from the dominators, the rulers, the state, and its cronies. They want everything. They want you to be predictable. They want you to be dumbed down and sick and confused and angry and frustrated and stressed so that you can buy their products, you can buy their things because, you're not a complete human being. There's something wrong with you. You need these you need this new television. You need these new shoes. Oh, you're feeling a little stressed? Take Activo, Leprofo, Debuvu, whatever. It's like all that's what these psychopaths do. They create problems and they offer solutions. Just like in any, I feel like I've seen like tons of like James Bond style movies or movies like that where like the villain creates an infectious disease and then like he's going to release it on the population and then like he's the one that has the cure as well. It's like that's what's going on with these like elite fucks that want to take advantage of human beings and that don't really care about us because the secret is that they're the ones that are scared and confused and afraid the most. And it's in their fear. Fear is the number one motivator for everything, for all of this. They're so afraid that they need to take it out on the rest of us because they're insecure. They're afraid of their thoughts, afraid of their life, afraid of their version of reality, afraid of their subjective experience, afraid of their own mortality, afraid of whatever. They had parents that told them to be a certain way or do a certain thing. And, just all this mental conditioning just soaking into their minds like a fucking poisonous, toxic lather. And then they take it out on us because exacting power and capitalizing and dominating over others is a direct way that you can have an impact. It's like you can say, we can talk on this show and on other shows, and peaceful people can talk and preach and write books and have experiences, and we can live in harmony and exchange with each other in a voluntary fashion, and everybody benefits. But there's always going to be somebody out there that says, you know what? All I have to do is be a dick, and I can immediately have an impact. It's, what I'm talking about on this show has no immediate impact. So why am I doing it? Well, because I believe it's the right thing to do. I'm compelled to do it because I believe that it's true and it's the right thing to do. And somebody who is afraid and fearful and wants to dominate over others. And by the way, I have been that person, so I know what it's like. And when I talk about the people who are in power and the dominators and the 1% and the state and those sorts of things, I know what it's like to embody that personality. I was that personality, and I think that's why I really enjoy psychedelics so much, is because they really changed my life and switched me from being a kind of aggressive, rage-filled, dominating person to a, compassionate, loving individual. And anybody that knows me well can tell you that. When I was younger, I was, teen angst, rebel without a cause, Adderall snorting, weed smoking, Eminem listening to, rebellious fuck you teenager. And I would definitely use violence and cut people down with my words because I knew that it had a direct impact. I could directly affect the lives of many people, just by choosing to be hate-filled and angry and violent. And so that's an option, That's an option. You can do that. And it's like, we see that happening. I mean, how many of these people that work in politics and, who are high up in the corporate game and, who are in charge of the banks and these things, how many of them are really, truly like fulfilled and satisfied and happy and peaceful and, content and complete? Or are they just chasing something that they think they should chase? Are they just in some kind of game that they got stuck in and they don't even know why they're there, but they just keep pursuing the path of more and more and more? Because maybe they want to fill some kind of void. They want to fill some kind of hole. They might not even be conscious of it. And maybe they would deny it. But there's no other rational explanation for it. There's no other rational explanation for, well, we made a couple $1 million. We need to keep making more and more and more and hoarding it and storing it, and just the whole way that we operate. It seems it's very irrational. We need to create laws. We need to restrict people. It's like, yeah, well. And then the saddest part to me is to see the people who are just like me and you, people who disagree with the way that we think and the message that I preach on this show, because they've been so conditioned and indoctrinated by the dominators to think the way of the dominators, to think the way of the 1%ers, because they've been tricked, they've been had, they've been taken, and they're scared too. They're afraid too, and they have somebody, they have these systems that say, "Don't worry, we'll protect you. We'll make these laws, we'll make these rules, we'll dumb everything down, we'll make everything less efficient, and we're gonna protect you." And so they say, "Hey, that sounds like a pretty good deal. They'll protect us." And then you have people screaming and yelling and trying to enforce, being champions. Duncan Trussell said it best. He's like, there's nerds and they're horrible. These nerds are horrible, and then there's the worst nerd of all is like the government nerds. And they're like, yeah, like you can't do that because like the government said so, like the state, yeah, respect the laws, like da 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 da. It's like, dude, you're on their side. Like what? Like don't be on their side. So yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, look, I mean, your individual experience is what matters more than anything else in the entire world. It's your show. It's not theirs, not your parents, not your boss. It's not anybody else's movie. It's yours, just you. And you're the star, you're the hero. And the biggest crime in history has been the removal of that concept from ordinary, acceptable life. Taking away our God-given birthright by way of threats of force and violence, intimidation, manipulation, indoctrination. And instead, replacing those, direct experience rituals with these lousy consolation prizes that you get rewarded for climbing up the ladder of the hierarchy that gets defined by the state and the dominators. It's cheap, phony substitutions for the real thing, what really matters. You, your life, your body, your mind, sex, food, sleep, drugs, music, energy. These are the things that make life worth living. These are the things, this is what human beings are. This is what we should be doing, not just a few hours a week. There's some people that go like days or weeks without laughing. I mean, that's tragedy. Serious tragedy. I mean, there's so much subtle tragedy that's happening. So many people that are prescribed, pills, that are, getting sick from whatever pesticides, GMOs, whatever's going, stuff in the water or just stuff in, bad things in the food, whatever it is. There's just all these little things that are happening because we've created this system that wants to organize people into a fashion where we're all just numbers. But we're not numbers. We're people. And that's why a system where there's one centralized authority that is trying to govern 320 million people, and that's obviously what I'm talking about is the United States federal government and the United States of America. And they want to control the world as well. They want global control. But that is good for them. But that's not good for us. Because we're human beings that we're biological creatures that have hair and skin, and we bleed. We're not just these cogs to be put into a machine. And that is what you get. You get DMV treatment. The more government expands, the more rules and regulations, the more kind of DMV style life you're going to have, where things just don't make sense. They take a long time. You're not really getting the kind of treatment that you want or deserve, and you suffer for it. And when you suffer for it, then you have to go and seek out some kind of way to alleviate your suffering. And then what are the options to alleviate your suffering? Well, it's like we have some alcohol, we have some tobacco, we have some marijuana in certain states, we have some television you can watch, we have Netflix. Hey, go binge watch some Netflix, and there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm not one of these people that's like this country's going to shit because everybody's dumb because they all watch Netflix, and if they just pick your head up out of your phone, man, and get involved. It's like, look, like, I get it. Like, we live in a time where there's all this like ultimate pleasure. You know how much time I spend on my phone? I probably spend like 6 hours a day on my phone. I get stuck in Instagram just looking at asses and cheeseburgers. It's like, that's because that's what we want. We want entertainment. We want to be fulfilled, but we're getting it. We're getting everything stolen from. Chris Ryan says this, author of Sex at Dawn and podcast host of Tangentially Speaking, that it's like we're living in a zoo. Because we've had everything that's natural and good and right and, that aligns with us as human beings taken away from us, and then kind of copied and reproduced as like these cheap plastic like substitutions that like get sold back to us. And they're never enough. That's why we always need more, and we need more. We need more things, more phones, more gadgets, more video games, more virtual reality, more immersion into fantasy, more immersion into a reality that's not ours. But if you take 5 dried grams of psilocybin mushrooms with your friends and go for a walk in the woods and go for a swim in a lake, you're gonna be swimming with the gods, my friend. You're gonna be reveling in infinity. You're going to be surfing through the waves of the cosmos with the gods, with a smile across your face from ear to ear. And you are going to be basking in the eternal waters of some place that can't be described, some paradise that can't be described. And that is such an essential part of the human experience. Such an essential part of the human experience. Before human beings started writing records down, we were drawing pictures, and we were telling stories, an oral tradition, oral history. We were gathering around campfires, and we were, ingesting things that altered our consciousness in ways that we were trying to make sense of. But that grounded us and connected us with the nature and the plants and the animals and the stars above. And people look back and they say, well, those cultures, they were primitive. They didn't have iPhones, and they didn't have medicine, and they didn't have all these things. Yeah, because they didn't need them. They didn't need them. They had each other. They reveled in the magic and the wonder and the awe and the astonishment of the simplicity of life around them. A bug crawling on a tree with a little drop of water, a flower blooming, the smell of grass, dirt, the thrill of a hunt. These sorts of things. Really living in life, connected, fully connected. And I think most of the suffering in our world can be avoided if there was a return to that kind of lifestyle. Not necessarily to say that I want to go live naked in the woods. What I'm saying is a lifestyle that includes, just like eating and sex and, sleeping and shelter and food, water, all these things are necessary components of a happy, healthy human life. Well, so are psychedelic drugs, psychedelic substances, entheogens, ayahuasca, iboga, DMT, ketamine, MDMA, psilocybin mushrooms, LSD, cannabis, hashish, shatter, dabs, whatever. Having experiences like this connects us, because now we live in a society that is so detached and distracted and isolated and separated and segmented. It's, the powers that be are keeping us from enjoying the real thing. And that's the biggest tragedy of all time. It's like a baby not being given milk, just sit there and crying. It's an essential component of the human experience. To have these kinds of experiences is essential. And because because most people, the majority of the world, has powers that rule over them that restrict these experiences, that is one of the reasons why that I feel that we have most of the suffering that occurs in our world, is because we're lacking that essential component, that essential grounder, that essential, that essential ingredient into the mix of the human experience in life, in what we call this version of reality. And to take that away from people is the biggest crime of all time. And that that's what we're up against. We're up against a cold, soulless machine that, it truly is like the Matrix. It's like, it really truly is like the Matrix, that sucks our energy out from us. And they suck our energy out from us by instituting systems of banking and money and, inflating the money and, just doing all these things to get people to be, running around like rats on a treadmill and doing all these unnecessary things that don't really matter. And then they're rewarded, like I said, by these cheap consolation prizes, a little bit of TV time, a little bit of booze, a little bit here and there. But it's no substitution for the real thing. It's no substitution for what the human animal craves. What we don't even realize that we're missing, because our brains are all so gooked up with all the junk that they've substituted and implanted into us, but you know what I mean. And it's this omnipresent kind of cultural scrubbing of reality, and then a replacement with their version of reality. The version of reality that makes them money, that makes you dependent on them, that does all the work for them, that benefits all of them, and that takes from you. But you are everything. This is your life. Your experience is what matters. And we've been cut off and restricted and preventing from having access to the very earth that we are born into, that we call our home. That the very earth that we climb out of from our mother's womb, filled in this biological goo, and after we spent 9 months incubating inside of another human being, and then we just crawl out of this sludge into this world. And where do we come into this world? We come into this world inside of a brightly lit, fluorescent white sterilized environment of strange, weird, non-human kinds of things. It's very, very strange. Very strange. But this is, taking away our God-given birthright by way of threats and violence, and then replacing our experience with these lousy consolation prizes, these phony substitutions. That is what's happening. That's what's at stake. And, you might think, hey, my life's not so bad. I enjoy it. I like playing video games, and I like watching TV. And, yeah, and that's true. That's fine. That's cool. And that's totally fine. But I'm willing to bet that everybody out there listening right now, there's something inside. There's something that you can't really quite put a finger on. There's something that makes you angry, or there's something that causes you to be stressed, or anxiety, or depression, or there's something in there that wants a little bit more. Why are we here? And what happens after we die? And what happens? Where were we before we were born? Nobody knows these questions. What is consciousness? We don't really know. We have guesses. But rather than, trying to, I guess, and rather than, I don't know, beat yourself up about that kind of stuff, wouldn't it be so much better to just engage in some direct experience and figure things out for yourself? People look at things like, I think it's just, it's so it's so sad, to me when I see people say things like, all right, you fucking hippie, you fucking druggie, or things like that. It's like, man, you're, you buying into the bullshit, don't buy into the bullshit. This is not about being a hippie. It's not about being a druggie. It's not about dropping out of society or any of that kind of stuff. It's about creating a new life for yourself, creating less suffering for yourself, and creating more happiness, and experiencing what really matters and what's really real, and creating a new world. And I think it's hard for a lot of people because there's so much going on. There's so much noise and confusion, and it's like, where do you, where does this fit into the equation? Like this podcast, like this conversation, like I can't, like, how this isn't even inserted into the mainstream discussion. Psychedelics, oh my God, people are gonna, you want people crazy, you want a bunch of hippies, in the street, I don't want that in my town, you want people, jumping off roofs, you want people going crazy, It's just, there's so much noise, and there's so much hysteria, and there's this need that people have to go, oh well, I know how this thing goes because I know someone that did that, and they winded up like this. So you're trying to tell me that that this is a good thing, or blah 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 blah. It's like, just calm down and relax a little bit. There's such a need to smack other people down, smash arguments. I'm right, you're wrong. This is the way it is. I know, you don't know. Yeah, but nobody knows. And why can't we get back to the roots of what this country was founded on, which is more of a live and let live kind of lifestyle? Live free, do what you got to do. Don't really bother anybody else. Don't kill anyone. Don't steal from anyone. Don't try and hurt anyone. And just live your life. And, in a decentralized way, without one central authority telling us how to conform to the mass reproduced cookie cutter version of reality that they all want us to participate in, whether it be Hollywood or the academic institutions or the government or the corporations or the banks or whatever the power structures are. They want you to conform to their mass reproduced system. They want you to be obedient and fall in line with their way of doing things. But that ain't you, man. That's not how it is. That's not how it is. If we really want to see peace, and if we really want to give people a chance to experience a healthy, happy life, We need a decentralized system of people who are living together and working together in a voluntary way, in a local way, with local laws, local rules, local food. That's the way it has been for thousands of years. Human beings living in tribes and packs as hunter-gatherers. Well, what was it? What was it that made that transition? Nobody really knows. But what we do know is that about 10,000 years ago, there was this thing called agriculture. Okay, great. So we don't have to wander around and find our food. Instead, what we can do is we can stock food and we can have it here. Well, really, the advent of agriculture was not an innovation that came from people necessarily. I mean, it came from people, but it was not an innovation to say, "Hey, look, this is wonderful. Isn't this great? This is going to help our lives." It was a way it was a way for the power structures at the time, the leaders or whoever, of the tribes of the hunt. I don't know exactly but it was once again in the human mind. There are people who say, "I can have an immediate impact over someone's life by dominating over them," and that dominating out that urge to dominate. All of a sudden you have agriculture, so you have food, so you have a place to keep people in one place. Okay, great. You have a place to keep people in one place so they don't have to move anymore. So now you can rule over them. And that's, I guess, when slavery probably started happening as well. And you guys can go and, look this up. I mean, like I said, I hear these things, I read these things, and, there's several different sources and you can find them. Graham Hancock, I think, talks about this. Daniel Vitalis talks about this. There's other people that talk about this, but it's important to know, that, with the advent of agriculture came the start of slavery. And then that gave rise to what we now call civilization. And it's like, well, look, we have all these wonderful things. Isn't this great? Yeah, great for who? And compared to what? Now, I'm not saying that we should go back to a primitive existence, but what I'm saying is that we should model the way that we organize ourselves and behave in society to reflect this sort of hunter-gatherer sort of lifestyle, the tribal, communal kind of lifestyle. Communal. Be careful. But seriously, I mean, as long as you have groups of individuals that are agreeing upon, voluntarily behaving in certain ways within their groups, then that's fine. But there's always this need. There's a need to dominate, a need to take over and rule. And that, that's not something that's just going to magically go away, but that's something that we could plan and protect ourselves against. But I think the more people having direct experiences, the more people engaging in direct experiences and finding themselves and unlocking their true potential and their true power and discovering their true intelligence and dancing with another form of intelligence that's way beyond our understanding and, trying to make sense of their world in ways that, serve, themselves and the others and the people that they love, that we have a real chance to actually live in a better world. And I think that it's what Terence McKenna would call the archaic revival, rediscovering your birthright. It's like what would you say if someone, like right now, it's illegal to engage in most of these psychedelics, and it's like, okay, well, if this is such a crucial part of the human experience, imagine if like someone tried to regulate sex. I mean, there would be people in the street protesting, screaming bloody murder, marching with pitchforks to the Capitol. But it's just as an essential part of the human experience. And it's like, we've gone crazy by not having access to these substances, by not being allowed to experiment with our own consciousness, by not being allowed to engage in direct experience, and instead have power structures like organized religion and organized forms of government take place and mediate the experience, be the nannies, the mediators, the in-betweeners, the people that claim that they're superior and they communicate with the divine for us. No, fuck that. You're the divine. You communicate with it directly. Anybody that tells you otherwise is your enemy. And that's just the truth. Anybody that tells you that they know something and that you should bow or worship or that you should follow them, follow their rules or their regulations, if it doesn't feel right to you, don't do it. You're your own authority. We've been robbed by the afraid, the scared. I always say, the people that are in power, they're like, like Jeff Sessions and these backwards, regressive idiots and assholes. They're like scared little monkeys, little chimps running around in a cage. They don't know what they're doing. They're scared. They're afraid. They're taking shits in their own hand. They're throwing them at everyone. And then, we suffer for it because they can't get their shit together, because they can't reconcile with the fact that they're finite, limited, fallible, mortal human beings whose skin will decompose and bones will decompose in the earth and be food for worms. And for some people, that's terrifying. But for the people who know, it's not. It's beautiful. But we're all, there's so much hysteria and there's so much confusion and there's so many people running around like chickens with their heads cut off because we're lost. We're a planet of human beings who are lost because greedy, dominator, power structure type people who have taken away a part of our existence that matters so much. It's such an integral part of being a human being. And they've taken it away and restricted it. And they said, no, you listen to this instead. You follow this instead. And if you do that, if you're a good little boy and you're a good little girl, then you get a little reward from us because that's what we give. We give you money. We give you, you can watch a little TV. You can have this. You can have that. But no. You cannot have a mushroom because we do not approve. And you know what? It's pretty telling, isn't it? It's pretty telling if you know the true nature of the state, if you know the true nature, if you know history, if you know the true nature of what these power structures are like and, what they're all about and what their game is. Your experience is real and is important. And you know that because they desperately do not want you to have it. They do not want you to engage in your own direct personal experience. They do not want you to eat something, smoke something, or drink something that gives you a new perspective, a new understanding, a new connection to the infinite reality of life and the cosmos and the connection with all living things and plants and animals. They do not want you to have access to that wisdom, ancient wisdom. So that's why you have to have it. That's how you know how powerful and important it is. You look at some of these things, psilocybin mushrooms and LSD and all these, Schedule 1 drugs, addictive, habit-forming. It's just laughable. It's laughable. And hopefully we'll persevere and we'll pull through this thing and we'll look back and we'll laugh and we'll say what primitive savages we were. We thought we could get a handle on something that, look, the cat's out of the bag. This is the most important thing in life. This is the most fascinating, interesting, and important thing in life. And like I said, you don't have to listen to me. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to listen to anybody else. but yourself. Go with your gut, go with your intuition, go with your research, go with what you feel is right, and make that decision. So many things we deliberate and we make, well, this has to be an intelligent... Okay, hi, my name is Michael Brancatelli. Today we're going to be talking about psilocybin mushrooms. Well, the active ingredient is psilocybin, and it's a chemical structure. Like, well, I want to do my research, and I want to know the chemicals, and da-da-da-da, and yeah, that's all good and everything, and whatever, and we can talk about it in academic, scientific ways and all that kind of stuff. But so much of understanding is feeling, being. There's a lack of appreciation for the mystical, for the unexplainable, for the magical. Just do it. If you feel it, do it. Listen to your feelings. Feeling is understanding, as Wim Hof says. Feeling is understanding. Just do it. But I think that we're, we're advancing a little bit, and I think that this is a way that we can spread this information and this knowledge. The power of the internet. Don't let the internet go away. You know what I mean? It's like, it's all up to us. It's all up to us to take the power back and put it into ourselves where it belongs and not give it away to anybody else. It's your right. It's your life. We just don't learn these things in any other way. And, nothing else matters. Like I said, nothing else matters. This is about you. This is about you. Because you have so much fucking power. It's insane. But they don't want you to know that. Nobody who wants something from you wants you to know that. But one of the saddest things is when I hear people say, I couldn't do that, or I'm not good enough to do that, or like, I would never, nah. It's because we live in a society that actively tries to beat you down and make you submit and make you a docile, neutered, domesticated animal. Don't be that, because you're not that. You might have been beaten down and conditioned to be that, but you're not. Break free, break out, free your mind, engage in direct experiences, have direct experiences, honor and respect yourself as an individual with unlimited and infinite power, because you are an infinite being of light and wisdom and right, and it's all about you. It's all about you. You are the real thing. It's your opinions matter, your experiences matter, your feelings matter. Don't give it away to authority figures who don't know what they're doing. Don't give it away to a culture whose, biggest concerns are beats and fucking sneakers and, videos of people drowning while kids laugh and all this other crazy shit. Instagram posts and likes and, emojis and Snapchat filters and, all this stuff, all this clutter. Break through the noise, engage in direct experience, transcend yourself, transcend your body, communicate with the infinite wisdom of the universe, communicate with intelligences that we can't understand, get a grapple on it, have it, understand it, and make it your own. Create your own understanding from it. Create your own experience. Create your own reality. Take back your mind. Empower yourself. One person. That's it. Once again, Terence McKenna was talking about this. He said one person taking a stand can do. The guy with the tank, was it Tiananmen Square, the Chinese guy that stood in front of the tank in the 80s? It was one individual that said no. If you are right, then you have might. We're responsible for our lives, for ourselves. We're responsible for creating the version of reality that we want. And you got to have a plan. Otherwise, you're going to be a part of someone else's. You're going to be, caught in the net with all the other fish. But just trust yourself. We give up. Once again, I'll say, like, we give up to these ideologies and these patterns and these methods and these teachers and these gurus. We don't need them. We don't need them. We need direct experience. We need individuals to claim their minds and claim their bodies and to claim their individuality and claim their freedom. Claim your liberty. Because nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what life is about. This is your life. Take charge. Authority is not real. It'll lead you into ruin. Institutions just want control over you. They're not enlightening you. They're not empowering you. They're just poisoning you, poisoning your mind, and taking away everything that's real and everything that matters in the moment, creating stress and anxieties about pasts and futures. They don't want you to go and travel to the frontiers of experience. We live in a repressed society, and some people say, well, there's so much overt sexuality and blah, 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 and that's just not true. The sexuality that is out there is not necessarily organized in a healthy way. It's everything is taboo, and what are the biggest websites, porn sites? But we don't hear about them. Nobody talks about them. Hush, hush, shame, shame, shame. Repressed, and shame, shame, shame. That's the name of the game. It's all about keeping you repressed, keeping you frustrated, keeping you confused. Psychedelics is like a power hose that you just turn on and blast all that shit out of your mind, away. And it's a shame that we have to engage in these things to blast those things away, because when we were born, we are just born with them. Watch a child. They are psychedelic, man. They're figuring things out. They are living in the mystery. They are living moment to moment. Time doesn't exist, and if it does, it is forever, because they are living the true way of living. But we try and fit them into the mold. We tell them what they can and can't do. We try and fit them into boxes. We need to dissolve this cheerful, happy model of rational science and understanding and government and all these things, and just give the power back to people. And, sometimes you just have to take it, Mind rights, We fight for rights. We fought for civil rights. We fought for gay rights, women's rights. It's time to fight, stand united together. It doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. It doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is. It doesn't matter what your race is. It doesn't matter what anything is. The only thing that matters is, do you want to have more control over your life? Do you want to have more freedom and more liberty over your life? And do you want to live a life that's more real, more fulfilling, and more satisfying, with more happiness and less suffering? And in turn, creates a ripple effect, and you shine like a beacon of light, inspiring other people to do the same. Without any worry or hesitation or fear, just do it. These people, these radical, you could call them radical fundamentalists, right? Like, the ISIS people or whatever, but there's radical fundamentalists here too. Religious people, government people, corporations, and, just anybody that is tied to one kind of way of doing things or one kind of idea that they want to jam down your throat. They're afraid, they're horrified, they're terrified. They can't stand people out of, quote unquote, out of control. They don't want us to be standing in the light of nature and rejecting all of their ideologies. They want us to be in shame, imprisoned and captured and rotting and fearful and scared and afraid, and yeah, you better think about what you said. You better think, I mean, the stuff that I'm saying right now, is this dangerous? Maybe. It might be. I'm not to sound like a paranoid lunatic, but everything that you've heard me say here is not something that power wants to be, masses to be exposed to. And they will, obviously try and demonize, if I ever get big enough where it gets to that point, they would obviously try and demonize me, shame me, dig up dirt on me, character assassination, that sort of thing. And I'm sure they could find tons of stuff. But I don't care, because I'm speaking truth. And let the chips fall where they may. One of the things that scares me the most is having your own people turn on you. One of the scariest points of the movie, I remember Braveheart, was when it's like they convince the people that William Wallace is like a criminal, and the people that he was fighting for the independence of Scotland, at the end, they're throwing things at him and they're cursing him and they're like, kill him, let him hang, yeah. And that's what I'm really afraid of, is the unruly, irrational, whipped up emotional state of the mob mentality. Because that's the thing. People want to be a part of the right side. People are afraid. People are scared. People want protection. People want to have something to do, something to be proud of, something to yell at, someone to blame. John Lennon, Tim Leary, Martin Luther King Jr., Robert Kennedy, John F. Kennedy. Why is it always these people that are preaching peace and unity, togetherness, oneness? I'm sure I'm leaving some people out, but number one threat. That's the number one threat. The number one threat is you thinking for yourself, you taking the shackles off of your mind and walking out into the light and declaring your independence and saying, no, I will take it no more. I won't watch your programs anymore. I won't buy your products anymore. I won't invest in the fear and the anxiety and the worry of what you're saying anymore. Detach yourself from the fear-mongering dominators and live a life that's free and independent of them, one that is counter to what they are telling you and what they are putting out. And I think that we're seeing that happen. The rise of cryptocurrency, the dark web, the rise of festival culture, the legalization of cannabis in states, the research that's going on with psychedelics, it's happening. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet, because we're still in this infested, toxic world. And there's still people out there that are brainwashed and hysterical and that don't want to see this happen because they're scared and they're afraid. And that's really what it all comes down to. It's just fear. We bought into this idea that we have to serve these power structures and be slaves to them. Otherwise, there'll be chaos everywhere. I actually get people that message that will say things to me on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. They'll say some things like, well, we need government, otherwise people will just kill each other. Yeah. And McKenna, Terrence McKenna, he was saying that, the nightmare is that, we'll go through this thing and they'll shut us down and we'll all be living in these FEMA prison camps, and it'll be like this dystopian 1984 Brave New World thing. And that's the scary part. 1984, it's kind of more scarier, and it's like this dominating, controlling, cold, machine-like future. And Brave New World, it's like people are just happy, they're complacent in the propaganda. They're willing participants in their own enslavement. And that's the nightmare, being a willing participant in your own enslavement. You know, they didn't even struggle. They dug their own graves, and they went there voluntarily as they were beaten down, dumbed down, confused, and brainwashed, made into hysterics that were yelling and screaming and smashing others into teams. And we're all being whipped up. And the real thing is being left off the table. Your experience, your direct experience, your God-given birthright to experiment with your consciousness, to go inside of yourself, to awaken to a higher state of consciousness, to a higher vibration, to experience intelligence that's beyond your capacity for understanding, to commune with it, to dine with it. We gotta walk away from all that shit that they want to do to us, because, you know, it's time to claim your identity, claim your being, and act without regret. Compassionate liberty, righteous individualism, radical direct experience. You know, it's the most important thing. And for all the things that we think are causing us pain and suffering, just remember that it all stems from the people who are threatening us, who never feel the repercussions of their actions, but who wear their suits and make their laws and make their rules and do their deals and scratch their backs and you scratch mine, and all that stuff, all that greed and envy and jealousy and hatred. And yeah, well, I think that we have a real shot at healing ourselves from state trauma. I guess I call it state trauma, you know, but it's really everything that is a part of the state, the deep state, the 1%, the global elites, the cabal, the dominators, whatever, the group of people who are in power. They are the ones responsible for most of the suffering that happens because of their distorting life. They're squeezing and twisting and turning, and they're making something fit that's not natural. They're restricting and they're oppressing. And so it's our duty to change that. If we believe in these messages, if we believe in truth and freedom and liberty, and we believe in doing the right thing, and we believe in ourselves, and if we want to have a better life and a better world, that we will fight them because they are wrong. And I won't live a life that will calmly back down. I won't live a life that will just let this continue and go on. I don't know what that means. It just means that I'm just going to keep speaking truth as I see it. I'm going to keep engaging in direct experiences. And who knows, maybe one day you won't hear from me anymore. Maybe that'll mean that, I've been shut down, I've been kidnapped, I've been thrown in a cage or something like that. But the message lives on. That's why I like that quote, nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. The time has come. The idea is freedom. The medium is the message. It's the internet. The message is freedom. And that's it. That's it. We figure it out. We do what needs to be done. We claim our identities. We claim our lives. We claim our direct experience, and we move on. And we create a better world. All right. That's it for me today. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you guys listened to this. And please message me, leave me some feedback, comment, like, share, subscribe. Leave me a nice rating and review on iTunes if you like. And if you want to support the show even further, you can go to patreon.com/Mike Brank. Thank you very much.